Welcome to a new video. Today we do something funny, I would say, to some degree. My initial idea, and I don't know if I will end up to call the video like this, was like, look, mom, I can do website tracking without a tag manager. But it has, to some degree, it is like this. I'm not doing this alone. I have Alexander with me, who I already had in a video, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, where we did something completely different. Today we are doing something with his open source project, and so therefore it's perfect to have him here because he can help me, he can hold my hand if I need to. But before we do this, can you do a quick introduction?
Yes, thanks for having me. And I'm working on walkerOS, open source tag management alternative or GTag alternative or whatever people might call it. Should it replace Rudderstack or Segment, or to some degree is something that just helps you to implement tracking properly. Our goal is to provide something that gives you full data ownership, that helps you to fully understand tracking setups, automate the implementation, and to have a single file that holds all your config about the setup, that LLMs, that CLIs can work with it, that you can version with. So we're coming from a dev perspective and build tracking for the developers, that others have reliable data that they fully own. And that's the whole goal and idea behind walkerOS.
Yes, and that's the reason why I'm already using it. Let me quickly share my screen. Let me know, can you see the screen?
I see it.
Perfect. So as you can see, this is my website, something I'm at least working a little bit more than I did in the past on. So it doesn't matter what's on the website. It's more interesting today how we track things on the website. So I'm already using walkerOS. Just to give you a quick idea how I'm using it, the website is Astro.js framework is nice because it does a lot of server-side rendering. But you can still run specific JavaScript on top of this. And this is, for example, what we do here also with the walkerOS implementation. So if you go on my website and if you're super curious, you can just open up the console. If you're interested in tracking, you should do from time to time on different kind of website. And as you can see here, you can see
yeah.
Can zoom in a little bit that we can see it. Like here we can see, okay, I'm initializing walkerOS. And if we now would go through all the different kind of things, you would see that we are also sending specific things along the way. So how do we send this? Since I want to have my data right now in BigQuery, so this is something I will change maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. I will do another video about this when I'm starting to change it. But right now I'm sending it directly into BigQuery. So what I'm doing here, the whole thing runs on Cloudflare, and I have a Cloudflare worker sitting behind the whole thing. And so I'm sending all my stuff there. And from there it goes. Then using the wonderful walkerOS capabilities, it's sent into BigQuery. Because walkerOS is not something that I can just use to track any kind of clicks here or here, but it's also something that creates me a pipeline where I can decide where I want to have the data to. I'm not on version 1.0 that you just have released, and so I'm not using the new, what you will look into in a second, the new flow concept. So this is the reason why we're doing this video, because I want to update my website, and so that I don't have to do it alone, we do it together. So if there are any kind of open questions, let's maybe quickly start here. So you described already a little bit what walkerOS does. Oh, you even shipped 1.1 already, so even more behind that.
Good feedback incoming.
Yes. So maybe quickly on this, can you give me the 2-minute rundown what walkerOS does in this whole setup?
We try to adapt. To summarize, we're playing Legos. We get some building blocks like different sources. Maybe you have an existing data layer that you want to keep using. Maybe you have a CMP, which could be a source that tells you about the user's consent choices. Maybe you want to use the data elp tagging, which is part of the browser source. And maybe you don't want to use it at all. You're just going for server side and use Express or Fetch, which is required for Cloudflare workers, for example.
No, exactly. This is what I'm using.
So we don't know about what you're about to build with these building blocks we are providing. You have different sources where data is coming from, and you want to send it to different destinations. And with all the struggles on the way, from race conditioning to mapping to consent handling to how can I really ensure that my event model is valid? Maybe I need to redact information. That's a flow from a source through the collector, different destinations. And the idea is that you are able to get these building blocks, build them by yourself, and then plug them together to have a flow. So in between sources, collector, and destination is not some space for transformers, for example, and they can help you to even further customize it by validating, enriching, redacting.
Perfect. And then I think this is how the flow looks like. So it's in the end, like it's just a JSON file.
Yes. Yeah, we're a huge fan of structured data because it's not longer our job to write JSON. I think this is the perfect job that agents can do for us because it's structured data. It should be used by computers. It should be generated by computers. So we're adapting to their language, and it helps us to, even as humans, understand what's going on. It helps us to have some sort of standard that we can validate against to see if a flow is fully valid, how to enhance it. And the flow JSON can be read by any system. And that's the idea, to hold all information from the variables to the web and server-side configuration to the mappings from Snowplow to GA4. And I can ask my agent, can you please tell me when I insert an autocomplete event, how will it look like in GTAG destination? How would it look like for Snowplow, Pivik, and so on and so forth? So we can simulate a whole flow.
Yeah. And so this is, for example, one of the reasons why I'm using walkerOS, because I don't want to implement tracking by myself. So fortunately, I have a little assistance that we will touch base with in a second that implements it, and like everything that gives it already like the kind of structure, the kind of types that we have to do, the better it goes. This is also like why I won't use other, let's say, tagging systems, because there I don't have the freedom to do it, or if I'm trying to do it, a lot of overhead. Let's say it like this. So we will build this because I'm not using this yet, because the walkerOS version that I'm using didn't require the flow, and so therefore like I did a flow-less implementation. But obviously, like with this, I can unlock so much more things that will make specific use cases for me, I think, a lot easier, because then I can decide. Not sure if I want to do this, but I could decide, for example, that I send some data to advertisement platforms or to my email marketing or whatever, if I ever want to do this. But this gives me the possibility to do it very quickly. Like one of the benefits like that you get when you have a tag management system, that you collect once and you pass it on to all the different kind of places. So I want to unlock this as well. Maybe as a quick look, how does it look like right now in the end? So here you can see this is my BigQuery table, like the event table that basically gets all the data loaded into. So if you ask me, okay, how you do this? Do you have a specific schema? No, I use this approach that I sometimes do with my clients as well, where we collect a lot of noisy data on the website and we qualify it later in our data model. And I do the same approach here. So I collect a lot of noisy data. So I collect every click that you do. Why can't I do it? 2 reasons. First of all, I don't have massive traffic here, so I get a very low amount of traffic during a month. So therefore, like I don't really have high volume. And the second reason is I do all my analytics work in the data warehouse. So therefore, like I can just pick from this big pool of very noisy data, and I can just pick the ones that I'm interested in. But then on the other hand, like since I have a very simple schema that I track with, it makes the whole implementation part a lot easier. So that's the reason for this. I don't say it's a good idea to just default track everything and then push everything into, for example, directly an analytics system. This usually creates more chaos. But if you have the control about it, like I have in the data warehouse, then obviously like you have a little bit more freedom to be a little bit more free what you track, like potentially almost everything. Okay, so that said, with that, I would say we swap over into our development experience, which will be, we are using our Claude Code to do this, because I'm using this for a lot of things. Also use it a lot to update this website. So therefore, it's a natural flow. I also did the first implementation with it, and it worked really well. We will head over to do this. So for that, I have to switch my screen sharing. And here we go. Yeah, I think that's the right one. Okay. Kannst du mein Terminal sehen?
Yes. I was just confused about the German, but maybe you cropped it out.
Sorry. No, we can stick like this. The only thing what I'm trying to figure out is how I can... Problems I cannot really properly zoom in. Anyway. Then we will just do it on... Oh, wait, here. Very good. Okay, is this a good zoom? Oh, this is maybe too much. One zoom out. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me fire up Claude in the only way how you should use Claude.
I know what you're about. Okay.
Don't do this at home.
Or maybe
only do this when you are super confident what you're doing right now. And I haven't updated yet, so I also have to do this. Okay, right now it already has implemented walkerOS. I know that you have already added some nice skills to the walkerOS repository, and you also pointed me already to a new development branch that is already available that I can using now. So I will now first ask Claude to check for the skills in the repository, and let's see that it can adapt it. So I'm doing like, you will see, like, this is how I work with Claude. So I will use my voice to do this because I'm not want to type all this stuff here. So let me quickly instruct it. Can you please check for the walkerOS repository? So it's also in the Timo folder. And also check for the specific feature branch that I will add here as well. And there you can find new Claude Code skills. And can you please check which kind of skills we want to add here? So what we want to work on is we want to set up flows for walkerOS, and then we would want to build this out for our current setup. So let's see what it does with that. I also didn't provide the new feature branch, so maybe I should add this as information as well.
Oh, it's a 593.
I'll add it first to understand everything. Oh, look, it even picks up the agent MD, which is good.
Yeah. And we're about to release it as official Claude plugin, or used by Codex and all other major agent systems as well, that you can run an install script. But now it's just... I'm happy to watch how you're working and to learn how we could eventually improve. And that's how we shipped just version 1.1 soon after 1.0, because we got great feedback in these sessions to see how
that's good.
People are really using it.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Okay, so it recognizes also like that there's a feature branch, so we can quickly tell it this is the feature branch we are looking for. So my approach is like when I work with these things is like I'm trying to let it get a good enough understanding and context first, which it gets now. So I hope also, like, I think the context window should be fine. But if it's overloading, we can still compact. So let's say step number 1 would be to get the skills ready. Step number 2 would be then to, if the context window, like, then we have to compact in between. So for everyone who's doing this stuff, at least like this is still, I would say, the thing that I try to take care most about is like that I seed the context in the right kind of way. So let's quickly see. So it sees the skills. Okay. It has a good understanding. Priority. I don't know. What would you say? Okay, this is the skill that it proposed that it should add. Okay, so.
I would fully agree.
Good.
And that's one advantage of open source, that you can just see how it's built and you don't have to check it yourself, but that's open source magic.
Then let's plan the flow setup. I think the interesting thing is like, what would you say? Because this would be something that I have to think about, like with the flow setup. And since I have this 2-part setup with one part on my website and the other part in a worker, so the flow configuration, I would assume, would sit then on the worker. Or would it sit in the browser?
Both. Most importantly, it will sit in your Git, that you have version control about the changes you've made to your flow setup, and you're using the walkerOS CLI to bundle it. It's similar to clicking publish in the Google Tag Manager, for example, and you get a new version of the GTag.js being downloaded. So use walkerOS CLI to input the flow and say, okay, here are two flows, the web from my homepage and the, for example, Cloudflare flow. We typically suggest to not just have two flows, traditionally web and server, but to have multiple flows for eventually prioritized events that you can batch the one while streaming the others, which are more important. And it's on your machine in your Git, and you're building the files, and you can even put it to your CI/CD pipeline anyway.
That's cool. Okay, we get our first question. So this is also like how I like to work. So I like to use the superpower skills, and these are usually triggering a brainstorming session and then a planning session, but I haven't invoked it with the right kind of keyword yet because I think it's fine when we're doing it. And this looks like more like the standard Claude way of planning things. Okay, yes, no, I just want to use BigQuery. To be fair, I want to get rid of BigQuery at some point, but that's not something that we do now.
And we can just add another DuckDB destination, for example, but you can keep your whole setup, just put in a separate destination, run that in parallel later on and compare if it's working or not, but the migration should be not affecting the rest of your setup at all.
Yeah. So here it doesn't really get, okay, it's not a gradual migration because I'm already using walkerOS, so maybe I should give this kind of context. I'm already using walkerOS, but not in the version 1.1. So this is more like an upgrade of the existing setup, but by introducing the new flow concept.
And eventually you can, in the folder apps, demos, flows, a full example code how to set it up. So it has explored the skills, but we also use internal demos to validate even before publishing to ensure that will still work, and we're aware.
Oh, this for maybe is for like the next question is maybe a question for you. Where should the flow configuration live?
On your local in your Timo folder, I would say just save a flow.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, now I haven't read it. There are two modes. We have the bundled mode and the integrated mode, because the typical one is bundled. You load a G tag on your site, which is the site is there, and then the script got loaded. And it could be blocked. It will load longer. It will have more requests, and it's separate from your site.
Yeah.
And having detached or decoupled systems, don't really know when it gets updated, it will break. So there are multiple reasons why you may want to prevent this or not. And the integrated mode is the more technical one, where you deeply include the whole code into your React app, for example. So it's inbuilt, that you can use not for marketing, for example, but for functional testing, for monitoring and for development purpose. You have fully typed system with walkerOS that you can understand, there's auto-completion IntelliSense that helps you to fully include context and fully include the bundle.
Yes. Okay. Good. Let's have a quick look what it wants to do. And I'm like, because as you can already see how I started Claude, so I usually don't read this stuff. Or at least like barely glance over it, but at least like when I have you here, at least we can do something. Okay, right now, this is our old setup with manual event handling. Now we want to go for walkerOS version 1.1 with flow pattern. Architecture, okay, this is in the browser, collector, API destination. This is where it goes to the worker. And like here, this is what runs on the worker, so it's not really Cloud. Yeah, technically I think it's Cloudflare pages functions, which I think under the hood is a worker. Everyone who sees that and get a cringe, please let me know if I said this wrong, but I think technically it's correct. Okay, we update dependencies. That is not really interesting. But here we have the flow.json now that we just looked at in, I don't know, this looks right, web source browser, web destination API, that also looks right because this is where we're sending it to, and then let's say the destination is then handling it to put it into BigQuery.
Yeah, there are a few things I would mention that if you go up a little bit, so the building blocks are the packages, and you can add not just a walkerOS package, but maybe a deep sky data package where you build your custom one. And here it says the API destination. So the browser source is looking for your attributes and will do the session handling. And you have the web destination API where to send data to. So it's using now just the API track path. This is pretty fair that you have the same domain with the same IP range and not
Yes.
different subdomains CNamed via DNS. And it got the settings are individual for each package. So it will post it via beacon. Oh, yeah, pretty. It looks good.
It looks good. Okay, then we get a build script, which totally makes sense. We might also have to update then our build script, or I don't know. I have a GitHub build process here, so let's see if this works.
The
Yes,
deferred script is a little bit different. I would say that, okay, it's bundling it, but walkerOS simulate will bundle anyway. And simulate is something, if you don't want to go online and click yourself, you can just say, here's my flow and simulate if I ingest this event, a page view, an autocomplete event. Is the mapping working? How does it look like in GTAG, in data layer, and whatever tool you're using? I would use it differently, but
you're happy? It's just for dev.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do that. Simplify analytics code. I'm always happy to simplify things. Oh, we can remove a lot of stuff here. That's good. I'm not sure if I want to remove the session and user ones.
Maybe we can ask what exactly is part of this analytics files.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, maybe this is a really good question. So let me ask this. Quickly on the plan, why do you want to remove the sessions and the user files that we're currently using? So there, I think, at least like for sessions and potentially for users as well, I think there's some custom logic in it. Please check again and verify if it really makes sense to remove it. So I would assume that it won't remove it.
You're right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, obviously. Yes, now I'm even absolutely right. Yeah, exactly. Because we do really cool stuff here. We hash the email address for privacy. So
maybe on this one, that was one of the feedback to have in between a source and collector, or in between the collector and destinations, you can plug in transformers. And for example, I would always argue to store raw data in BigQuery as is, including basic bot traffic.
Yeah.
You can filter the most obvious one, but you may want to understand how much traffic is consumed by agents, which could be a relevant question if you want to think about, should I optimize my website not just for humans, but also for agent traffic, for example. So you don't know yet, just store plain raw data if it's in your infrastructure, in your system that you're controlling. If you're sending to third-party marketing tools like GA, for example, you want to obfuscate or redact specific things. And you can plug in a small transformer just for this destination. And what you're doing here with the older walkerJS might be something that could be migrated to transformers later, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. I don't do so much stuff. So therefore, it's mostly the email address where I hash it, and I just hash it right now in the browser. Okay, so now it wants to remove config, send event walker init. I think this makes sense because these were mostly just operational files. Okay, we keep our users, we keep our sessions. Thank you. Again, this is the tricky thing. When you become too confident with, the agent will know what it does. No, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, in my case, not really serious stuff will happen, but in other cases, this might be, your data might drop.
You're having a custom session detection. So eventually we'll see 2 times the browser source with the included session detection. We'll separate it as well to give you even more control. So it will become 2 separate sources.
Okay, step by step. Sounds good. I haven't updated Claude code on this device for a while. This is why it doesn't use the new tasks properly. But yeah, that's just a convenience function to most degree.
But one thing I've learned is if you plan tasks using agents, is to write it down and to save it. And after doing a plan, executing a plan, I asked an agent to add a review, add lessons learned, and to achieve it, that you later can maybe ask for, hey, I did all this planning on this 100 tasks that we've made. We have these executions, go through and learn from the lessons learned written down. So this self-improving systems getting better over time. Even with session detection here, I would log after each session what we've learned, what we've achieved, or what we've decided on. And it should live in your Git that you can anytime scroll back, not yourself, but ask your agent to go back and see how could we improve.
Yeah. So on my usual development device, which is not the one that I'm currently on, I do a little bit, but not most of the stuff. So for example, I have specific Claude commands that just do this, so that in the end we'll create a plan. Then I also have something that once implementation is finished, it runs a retro. So it checks everything. If it finds specific things, it creates a new task. Right now, I'm starting to move most of my projects to use Beats, which is like the task management within Git that I can recommend. That's nice because this will basically then just create the task SL file, I think, that can also then live in the Git repositories so that I can pick up the stuff. But yeah, this would be another video to show what is actually. And the problem is, I don't know how it's on your side, but on my side, how I work with these things is really subject to change almost every 3 days. To some degree.
Yeah, at least I force myself not to reinvent my whole workflow every week, but once a month I go for what has changed. And even this is more automated to get to read the latest articles from major providers. If a new codex was released, if a new model has been published, and so on and so forth. So from Ralph to any kind of loops. So I'm not part of any AI social network yet. But I asked, so I'm not going for the hype because it will spike and then it will drop. Going for the hype, but I'm going for reliable, established, proven patterns that we can learn from. And superpowers you're using here by Opera, they are, for example, pretty well and have established in very short time.
I think there's the other one, which is called something with spec writer or so. It's like at least other friends of mine, they're using this one. They're both doing basically the same job.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I even loop before the Ralph one got hyped, but you should have a solid loop cycle. One of the benefits of loops are that you can manage the context window a little bit more effective. So because you really run basically Claude as a headless one and just provide them the context that it needs, and then with the instructions of additional context that if it needs it, where it can get it from. Yeah. And then, okay, batch 1 is completed. Okay, why don't you go for batch 2? Yeah, sure, go ahead. It's quite interesting. Sometimes it does that it just stops here. But yeah, usually I'm trying to really get it to run through, but
yeah. I still like to read the code being produced, and from spec-driven development or to superpowers brainstorming mode, for example, I really like to be forced to think about the implementation, and I go over all the time. So it's 80% planning and brainstorming and 20% execution, or 10% execution and 10% debugging later on, to really understand what has been changed. So I'm not about to waste that much energy on tokens being burned by false implementations or wrong assumptions, but I still try to understand what is the whole scope. Why are we going for? I want to prevent from any AI slop coming into my project, for example, because reliability is the key promise we're about to give.
100%. You have a public project, so therefore this totally makes sense. So I think also like it comes down to what I'm actually doing. So obviously, like in important client projects, I might check what it has built, but usually my way is please play it back to me. Yeah. Like the essential part. Usually what I ask is, okay, can you please inform me about the essential decisions that you made with your implementation? So this works really well if I do some kind of data stuff, because there I immediately understand, okay, maybe query it differently and so on. If I do TypeScript or mostly this is TypeScript.
Yeah. You can go ahead.
Yeah. That's a good point. So then I usually don't question about this too much, unless I see something that makes me suspicious. I think.
But having plugins like Zot or fully typed or using TypeScript, which will generate from your type interface to JSON schema, you can fully validate events. And under the hood, we also fully typed everything without just one any for the generic part that you can plug in any of your custom images, for example. But this helps you to know how these building blocks fit together. And you have this, it's working pretty well. What's missing though is the semantic layer. And this is all about the flow.json, where we enhance it step by step to more information. Okay, here's the contract for that event. And
Yes.
we're going to add more semantic information like why does this or what does this, it sounds obvious, but on an autocomplete mapping, the data property total or amount or value, what is it is not, then you should be punished anyway. But how is it measured? And it depends
As long
on,
as you have shipping as additional information, it's fine.
yeah, but this is the information. If it includes
Yeah.
it because your legacy system isn't capable of having updated scripts or using a system you can't control, it might include every information, but then add a semantic layer that tells you about it, that if you later ask your agent to create a query, you can add context of a flow.json, which will have all this information attached by the semantic information. And the queries will now have way more context and are way more accurate than before.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. I think it looks good. So at least like it looks like the initial build worked. It's built.
Yeah, the walkerOS bundle, I've seen it as a dependency being added to your project. If you add a GitHub workflow, for example, it could call now npm run build, and this one will call the walkerOS CLI all automatically by your CI pipeline that will generate the walker.js in it, because people used to call it walker.js, which was the name we started with. This is homage to this old naming. And the browser version is still, this is our GTech.js. Walker.js is living in the browser, while the bundle MJS is living on the server, having more.
It's always good to have some traditional values still.
Yeah.
For
Even in this
future
agentic,
users.
fast-paced world, stick to the 3-year-old things.
Oh, look, now it's getting a little bit into trouble here. But this is the nice thing. So what it does right now is it's trying to add it to Astro, which sometimes can have some issues, because Astro always expects things slightly different to be added because it's really built for even full server-side rendering. I already had a lot of headaches with Astro projects in the past, but now at least like if you really just go for mostly for website, it works quite well. But I can remember this was one of my first agent adventures, like really building. Also, like I did one or two not ideal projects with Astro, which were more interactive than they should be, and then this caused a lot of issues. And yeah,
I think what's interesting here now is that we rebranded from Walker, the company behind maintaining the Walker OSIO, to clearly separate the fully open source part that will stay open source.
Find it in the, also like you still like here you can see like it was trying to to go.
Yeah,
to find this, and then we have a redirect. So at least you have proper redirects.
There was good traffic coming in, though. So
yeah, no, 100%.
It's trying to. We talk about the walkerOS CLI supports a few commands like bundle, which is the compilation from flow.json file into a executable file for the web or for the server, for example. But the other command that it tries to use now is simulate, which should be part of a more mature CI pipeline.
Yeah.
Can simulate or ensure that the mapping or the setup ensures that GTech will be sent provided with this call. And I'm not sure if we should skip the simulate part and go step by step to say, okay, let's just bundle the Webflow, because then there will be the right one. And I've seen now it's adding consent handling or proper consent handling. And doing the mapping.
Yeah, I got some inspiration. It was just checking your repository to see if it gets some more ideas.
The collector package was missing. Maybe that's the core one. But it's nice to see how you're working on this and all that work for yourself. We can see that the walkerOS bundling flow, it will download all the packages being linked in the repository, in the flow.json. So if you don't like our packages or some are missing, we haven't focused on developing as packages as possible, but to provide only stable ones that we can guarantee they're working. So the GTech is having a proper consent mode handling, and we'd like to update or release the snowplow destination, for example, so you can give it a try here as well. And you can build your own one and then maybe PR to keep the project up and running. And maybe an old cached version.
Cache always. But the agents became quite good at this. So, like, I can remember some months ago, like this was sometimes really something where they really went into an infinite loop and didn't really got an idea. But especially, I don't know if it was since Opus 4.5 or so, like it got a really good understanding to understand typical flaws that can happen. I had the same like with data development, like where you sometimes also have cache stuff and then it went for an hour, like back and forth. I don't understand why I don't see. It would be the same experience that I would have to some degree, but yeah. Oh, look, we are using a different config. This is also like one part of the migration. Like at least like in my experience, sometimes with migration, it really also struggles a little bit, like because it doesn't really remove things from before properly, and then it still finds some artifacts from before, and then it gets confused. So we will see. But I would say, so for the video, this is what I wanted to show in the video. So now the rest is just execution. So I will make a second video where I will show, okay, how this whole fires on the whole pipeline, potentially when I build my other pipeline that removes BigQuery from it. So then I can show everyone how the whole pipeline works. So, yeah, okay. It thinks there's the flow.json in the example one makes an issue. So it renames now.
I'm not sure if it's doing pretty well now or if it's about to get stuck somewhere.
To derail.
Yeah.
Maybe I do a follow-up where I show, okay, this is how it ended up. But we don't want to stretch this initial video for too long because, like, obviously watching it already for 25 minutes is already fine enough. But again, like, to wrapping up, so the basic idea is why I'm doing this. I want to have more control over my tracking setup. Ideally, I want to have my tracking configuration in my code base, because this is the most annoying part. So deploy something. I mean, if you're watching this and you did debugging of classic tag manager setups, then you know how much manual part is this between going back and forth. And here we can see the build has successfully worked. So that's a good ending for everything.
I think that's interesting. You found a CLI bug. Maybe you can save your experience and send it to me or open a PR and issue.
I can. I will ask if it can open a PR this afterwards. And then you can investigate. You can also then tell, okay, no, actually that was maybe not. It was just a wrong assumption. So this is why I like the setup.
Yeah. Huh? It would be nice to test if the walkerOS now is sending events correctly.
We can try to test.
Or maybe you can take a look into the Git files that have been changed or whatever. It's your... I'm just watching.
No, it's okay.
Was it now sent or is it... Oh, yeah.
No, it was not sent. As you can see here, like I was by accident pressing the tick, and this is why it was not there yet. So let's see.
Okay. So if you can start your local website that it can load, and it's always an issue with CORS if you want to send data from a local file, if it's not running, but there's a quick Python script, or you can spin up an HTTP server locally very quickly, or let it spin up.
Yeah, you can, by the way, also see that I generate even real-time stats from my blog, from YouTube, and from LinkedIn. This is why I have to fetch all the data here. This is the thing with when you run it with Astro, so you have to prep everything on build time.
Okay.
But which is also quite nice.
Yeah.
But this is one of the reasons why build takes a bit longer.
Yeah. But it's nice that the build Walker is now fully part of the whole experience.
Yeah. It arrived in the Astro world. Astro has arrived in the Cloudflare world. So let me quickly add this. Let's see. I will switch the window in a second. Okay.
It's nice that we're having a good list now how to validate it, to open the site, to look into the console.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's clear. We cannot find the API track because it's not deployed. But everything else?
Yeah, but then it should have tried to send 2 new requests to your local API track endpoint.
Maybe it did. No, not here. You mean it shouldn't have done that, but it tries to. Everything else, this works fine.
Yeah, but can you inspect the network top? Eventually there's a filter. It's not fetch. We're using different strategy.
What are you using?
What did we? Can you go for filter for?
No problem. Yeah. Just let me reload. And then, so what do you need to see? Okay.
Just the request, try to send.
I was just trying to send this to, I think it doesn't work locally with the setup that I have.
Okay.
It can only work on if I have deployed it, because this runs in a different kind of function.
Okay.
I will deploy it afterwards and then I will see if it works. But in the end, like at least it catches all the events that I want to send. So
Nice.
I can just send it then on the other things. Okay. Yeah. So I would say migration successful. Also, there will be a second version of the video where I change the BigQuery destination. So this will be fun as well. So I can already tell, like, I want to have it on a European host. We will most likely, like, at least my plan is to have the pipeline generate Parquet files on Hetzner that I can then use in a different way. But this will be the next video, so not the one that we have today. So today was mostly like migrating and giving everyone the opportunity to understand how walkerOS is working. So therefore, thank you so much for being with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Commentating. Yeah.
It's nice.
I think did a good job.
It was a tough one for us.
It was, really tough for us.
Yeah,
Just
we still need to
commentating.
understand though.
Yeah. Okay. With that, everyone else, see you in the next video.
Bye.